Hey Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking, and we're here for the last color. It's green edition for limited. So, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's get our subs up to 1,000 to have a party, and put some comments down below. Help feed that YouTube algorithm and get some views for the channel. Really would appreciate it. All right, so guys, let's get started. May make this a quick one as we finish off the mono color stuff. So we have Eliwick Tumblestrum. So 2 green and 2 for a 4 loyalty planeswalker that lets you venture into the dungeon over and over. She goes up, and then when she gets -7, she gets plus. Your creatures get +2/+2 haste and trample for each dungeon you've named. Each dungeon you've completed is different. And worst case scenario, you flip it down to look at the top 6 cards of your library, reveal a creature card from among them, put it into your hand. If it's legendary, you gain 3 life, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. This card is a powerhouse, guys. The only drawback to it can't protect itself, so you won't be able to lay it into an open field to generate a creature to block with, unless venturing into the dungeon will generate the creature for you. But with that said, I still think this card's highly playable. It does everything you want. It's a really great card. I would highly suggest playing it. Just remember to make sure you be careful when you play it so you don't get it killed on you by too quick. Next here we have Old Knoll Bone. So great mythic, 7 mana for a 7/7. Flying, whenever a creature controls the combat damage of the player, create that many treasure tokens. This card is fine. Um, I've often not played it because 7 mana can be a bit of a stretch sometimes, especially against black decks or white decks that will just kill it instantly since it has no way to protect itself. Um, but with that said, there is a place for it. I mean, I probably would draft it. But honestly, guys, I would try to stick with creatures 6 or less. I don't think this does enough to really devastate the playing field if you just play this by itself. So that's how I feel about it. Next, we have the Oteroski. So 3 green and 6 for a 10/10, has haste and ward 10. Um, Whenever it attacks, it fights a target creature defending player controls. This thing is also awesome, but to be serious, guys, 9 mana? Come on. If you get the chance to cast this and punch your opponent in the face with it, A, it's only going to happen once, and B, you're really lucky they don't have a blocker. Because this thing doesn't have trample or anything like that. So, honestly, guys, I would not draft this. Um, yeah, it's just too much mana, doesn't do it. If it had trample, sure, but no. Just, yeah, no. No, no, no. Long Rest, 3 green and X. So return X cards for different mana values from graveyard to your hand. If 8 or more are done this way, your life total becomes equal to your starting life total, and you exile the card. This thing's a powerhouse, guys. I have used this in Limited, and even doing this for 5 mana, you got to realize it says pick up 2 different cards. Um, so it could be any card. It could be a sorcery, it could be an instant, it could be a permanent, it could be a land, an enchantment. You name it could be anything, guys. And I've like if you have a card like this in your deck and you're playing, let's say, black or even white with lots of removal spells that get put into your graveyard, imagine just putting land on the field until you get to about 6 mana and just killing their stuff and doing things to kill their stuff. And you're both down to like 1 or 2 cards in hand, and then you draw this, and you're like, oh, well, I'll just do a long rest for 3 or 4, and you pick up all those removal spells again. It's basically like a brainstorm. This card is amazing, and I would highly draft it and highly play it if you're playing green, but not as a splash because it's 3 green to start. Green has to be one of your main colors, guys. Instrument of the Bards. This card's pretty good. Um, I would draft it and play it if you have lots of different mana values on your deck. And also, you have to know your deck well because if you get to a point, you got to know what mana you want to stop it at because it's not that number or less, it's just that number. You know, so this can be a really good card to use, although more often than not, I would say stay away from it if you don't know your deck very well. Um, or if you don't have enough of certain mana types because it literally late game is a dead draw. If you get it in your opening hand, it could be fine. But then again, you got to commit 4 mana to it. Um, Honestly, guys, I'd probably just say no to this, honestly. The few times I've played it hasn't been all that hot, and I've kind of got uncool with it, so I would say no. Frog Hemoth. Yeah, 5 mana for a 4/4 trampling haster. What more do you want in life? Other than the fact that when you punch your opponent in the face and deal damage to him, you exile that many cards from the graveyard, and this guy gets bigger. Yeah, this is a powerhouse. You definitely should be playing this if you're in green, and definitely drafting it first pick. Varus Silver Moon Ranger, again, 2 green and 1 for a 3/3, right on target for value, even though it's a little hard to cast, but it makes it up with reach and ward 1. Also, whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, venture into the dungeon. It only triggers once each turn, but who cares? Also, whenever you complete a dungeon, create a 2/2 green wolf token. Like this does it all. Like this is like you go into McDonald's and you're like, yeah, I'd like to upsize my drink, please. They're like, oh, well, we'll just upsize your fries too. Would you want a shake with that? Like this just does it all, guys. This is definitely a powerhouse in green. I would definitely play it. It's just amazing. Okra Jelly, another great powerhouse. It's basically a fireball that sits on the table. So let's say you put 6 mana into it, you get a 5/5. Or we'll do even numbers because odds are odds. Let's say you put 7 mana into it, so you get you a 6/6. It's 6/6 Trampler, and when you attack with it, if it dies, um, you can create another copy of it in the next end step. That token enters the battlefield with half that many counters, so you go from a 6/6 to a 3/3 to a 1/1. Like this thing's just amazing. Because once you attack with it and they manage to kill it, then you can make it as a good blocker. Or once you've killed all their stuff and it comes back and there's nobody left to block it, you can just keep swinging. This thing's a powerhouse. Definitely recommend drafting it if you see it if you're in green. Again, another powerhouse. Well worth pack leader, guys. It's a 3/3 for 2. You don't get much better than that. Pack tactics at 6 or better, you draw a card. Plus for 4 mana, you can make it a 5/3 with trample. Like, wow. This thing just does it all again. Another great card in green. If you're in green, you should definitely be drafting this as a rare. Circle of Dreams Druid, 3 green for 2/1. Basically, um, it's gay as Cradle on a stick with legs. Uh, as far as being worth money, it's worth about $10. So if you see it, you want to draft it for value, go right ahead. But honestly, every time I've drafted this, I've never put it in a deck, and the few times I tried, it was just useless. In limited, that's not the format for this, so only draft this if you want the money because in limited, this is an awful card. It dies too easy, doesn't do enough, costs too hard to get out. So yeah, unless you want the money, just no. Wild Shape, 1 green, you can make your stuff a 1/3, 1/5, or 3/3 with different abilities, reach trample, hexproof. It's a decent protection spell because you can make your things a 1/3 turtle with hexproof. But to be honest, guys, I would just not play this. This is just a really bad card. Yeah, I just don't play this. You meet in the tavern. So this is a great uncommon, guys. 2 green and 2 for look at the top 5 cards for your library. Reveal any number of creature cards among them. Put them into your hand. That is amazing. Not to mention the fact, late game, if you've already got creatures on the field and you draw this, you can just start a brawl, give your whole team +2/+2, and just get jiggy with it and just run in at your opponent and kill them. I think this is a great card. It has 2 very good modes on it, and I would definitely start at least one of these in your deck if you're playing green. Loathsome Troll, so 2 green and 3 for a 6/2. That when he dies, you can either put him on top of your library, put him into your hand, or on the battlefield tapped if you roll a 20. Honestly, the few times I've played him, I've decided I don't like him. He's too easy to kill. He doesn't block well. Yeah, you keep getting him back, but does that really matter? Because it takes 4 mana plus 5 to cast him again. At the end of the day, I don't think he's playable in green. There's too many other better creatures. Lurking Roper, so green and 2 for a 4/5. This is a great thing to block with. If you have a way to gain life, it's okay. You can untap it because it's really big for 3 mana. But more often than not, I just skip this one. I just don't think it's good enough, guys. Next, we have the Wandering Troubadour. So a green and 3 for a 4/2. At the beginning of the instep of landing on the battlefield this turn, venture to the dungeon. This thing's a powerhouse, guys. You want to play this because venturing in the dungeon by just laying a land is just freakishly powerful. Especially on turn 4. Like on turn 4, you can lay your land and then lay this guy. And then at the end of that turn, you did lay a land that turn, so he triggers and you get to venture into the dungeon immediately. And if they don't kill him in the next 2 or 3 turns, you keep laying lands, he gets out of hand quick. So yeah, this is definitely somebody you want to play, and it's a really good card. You happen upon a Glade. So for a green and 2, you have search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal and put them into your hand, and make camp. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a powerhouse, guys. Another card I definitely would use. It's even an instant, so you can hold it up in case you have something else you want to do, and then do this in response in case they don't do anything at the end of their turn. But the ability to instantly search up 2 basic lands to mana fix, or put a permanent card from your graveyard into your hand is phenomenal. 2 great modes that for 3 mana are really on par. I mean, this thing is just really good. Hunter's Mark. So once again, it's a fight spell. You know, target creature you control gets +1/+1, and then it deals damage equal to its power. Target creature or planeswalker you don't control. This card is great. It can't be countered. We technically call them fight spells, but they're not really fighting because it just deals damage. So they even can't kill your creature if they wanted to. So Hunter's Mark is great uncommon. I definitely would be taking it green. Intrepid Outlander, a green and a colorless for a 2/3. That's amazing, especially with reach. This guy has so much value on his mana cost, it's ridiculous. Plus his pack tactics, you get to 6 or better, and you start venturing into the dungeon with this guy, he can get out of hand quick. So this is a definite must draft and an amazing card. Green Dragon, 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer, Poison Breath. If you deal damage to something, you destroy it. This card is not good. I don't like it. 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer is basically what you get. Because honestly, if you lay this and then swing at somebody, they're not going to block what you're swinging with. And if you swing first and then lay this, it doesn't work. So it has to be on the field, and the effect has to be in play before someone takes damage, which makes this a bad card. Me personally, I wouldn't draft it and I wouldn't play it. Not for 6 mana, because you're basically getting a 4/4 flyer for 6, which you can get a lot better things for 6 mana in this kind of format. Choose your weapon, a green and 2. 2-weapon file, you get double target creature's power and toughness, or deals 5 damage to target creature with flying. This is okay. I honestly wouldn't draft it because there's better things to do to kill flying creatures, but I definitely would have maybe 1 or 2 in the sideboard if you got a chance, on the off chance there's a big flying deck, because doubling target creature's power and toughness normally won't come up because the creatures are kind of mediocre at best in most decks. Just my personal opinion. So Prosperous Innkeeper. This card's great. 2 mana for a 1/1, but you get a treasure token, so you basically get to invest a mana later with it, and then you gain a life every time a creature comes into play under your control. It's a great card. I wouldn't be drafting it over probably other commons, but if you have a weak pack with some green in it, and this is in the uncommon slot, I'd be taking it. Purple Worm, this thing's a powerhouse. So, if something dies, you can cast it for 2 less, so basically 5 mana, 8/7 with Ward 2. Trust me, this is limited, shit's gonna die. If you have to, swing in and make something die. Uh, yeah, this thing's amazing. I would definitely draft it. I'd draft 2 or 3 of them if I could. Never Winterdryad. Again, another card that I would draft probably 1 or 2 of at least. 1 green for a 1/1 is fine, but the ability for 2 to search your deck for a forest and put it into play tapped is phenomenal. You can block and then get the forest and yada yada yada. It's just really really good, guys. I definitely would play 1 or 2. I wouldn't play a whole lot because if you draw these late game, over the course of time, it could be very devastating. But having 1 or 2 to get a lucky turn 1 or 3 drop or a way to block and get more land out of your deck, it's very powerful and I like it a lot. Compelling Duel. So if you're doing the green thing and you're doing aggro with creatures, this is a great removal spell, believe it or not. Because when they lay their creature, you can just be like, hey, my guy's +3/+3, and guess what? You have to block. And just start killing their guys by using cards like this. And it works even better if your guys got trample, because then you're not only killing the creature, but you're killing them too. And +3/+3 is normally big enough to make your creature survive any attack. So I definitely suggest drafting 1 or 2 of these. Plummet, like I said, here's the great way to kill flyers. 2 mana, destroy target creature with flying. It's cheaper than 3. I would definitely grab a couple of these. I'd probably start 1 and put the rest in the sideboard. Ranger's Longbow, a green and a colorless. Equipped creature gets +1, +2/+1, and has reach. Equips for 3. This is awful. Do not draft this card. It's 5 mana to give your creature 2/1 and reach. It's ridiculously bad. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Just don't. Underdark Basilisk. So 2 mana for a 1/2 Death Toucher. That's fine. It's basically creature removal, and if you're playing the whole +3/+3 make them duel, like you can make somebody block this thing and kill all their stuff. So this is a fine card. It really gums up ground combat. So yeah, I definitely would draft 1 or 2 of them. Circle of the Moon. So green and 2 for a 2/4 creature. When it's your turn, he's a 4/2. I like this guy a lot. I think he's pretty good. Depending on what's in your 3 spot, I'd definitely be playing this guy just because a 4/2 that can attack and then a 2/4 can defend is really, really sweet. So yeah, he's good enough for a 1 or 2 of. Spoils of the Hunt. This is amazing, guys. So a green and 2, target creature control gets +1/+1 in a turn for each mana from a treasure spent to cast it, and it deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. This is another fight spell, but they don't fight back actually, just like the last one. And when you got the Death Toucher we just looked at, like you can just start zapping off like giant creatures left and right by just having your Death Toucher deal a point of damage to them. It doesn't even matter if you use treasure on it. So not only with that, this is a great removal spell for 3 mana as long as you have creatures out. So yeah, definitely be drafting this in green. Direwolf Prowler, so 3 mana for a 2/2 that can become a 4/4 with haste. So if you have 5 mana, you can make a 4/4 and swing. Worst case scenario, you leave him back. He's always a 4/4 as long as you pump him. I think he's good. I'd play 1 or 2 of him. You don't want to play too many of them because that whole tying your mana up thing can be very detrimental to you building a board. So you can actually keep fighting if you have to keep your mana up to keep the opponents from swinging at you. So Sacred Herbalist. So a 1/3 for 2. Put a land on the battlefield from your hand. Not good enough. I probably wouldn't play unless I was short on creatures. That's the only way. And you had a whole lot of those compelling duels. That way you could make him a 4/6 and swing in and kill stuff. But to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't play him. Healed Giant Hedge Gorger. So 2 green and 4 for a 7/6 where you gain 3 life all day long. I'd play 2 or 3 of these because there's nothing better than making a 7/6 that's going to kill whatever their big nappy is, plus give you some life buffer. Yeah, it's pretty sweet, guys. I definitely play at least 2. I mean, 3 might be pushing it, but depending on what's in your deck, maybe 3 is good. Sylvan Shepherd, so a green and 2 for a 2/3 that whenever you attack, you get to gain life, plus it has vigilance. It's a great card. I like it a lot. I've seen it used well. It works really good if you're playing with white and the life gain shenanigans that go with white. So yeah, it's not too bad. If you're not doing anything with life gain or your deck has nothing to do with life gain, I actually wouldn't play this because the only way you're gonna get life is if you attack, and a 2/3 for 3, even though it has vigilance, is not good enough unless once again you have a bunch of compelling duels. So. So we have the Ranger. 5 mana for a 4/1 with reach, and you get a 2/2 green wolf. For 5 mana, this is sweet. You're basically getting 6/3 worth of damage. You get a 2/2 wolf to block the ground and a 4/1 to block the air, and 4 is big enough to kill almost any dragon. So this will guarantee you a dragon kill if they swing with it. So I definitely would probably start 1 or 2 of these, or at least make sure they're sideboarded in case you come across some flyers. Knoll Hunter. So 2/2 for 2. This is a great common. If you're going for pack tactic style, once this thing starts getting +1/+1 counters on it, it gets out of hand quick, guys. This thing is really powerful, and I would highly suggest playing at least 1 or 2 of them. The Boule. Green and 3 for a 3/3. Whenever a creature dies, gets a +1/+1 counter. I mean, what more do you want for 4 mana? I think this thing's a great card. I'd definitely be playing 2 or 3 of them. This is the kind of card when you put it on the battlefield, people kill it immediately because they don't want to see it grow out of control. So yeah, definitely a must play. Next we have Find the Path. A green and 2 to venture into the dungeon, and then land makes an extra 2 mana. To be honest with you, I don't play this card. The only time I play is if I'm playing like some big green creatures or some big high-end creatures, so I can scry through my deck and plus then generate extra mana. But more often than not, since you only generate green with it, it's gonna be just if you have big green creatures. So more often than not, though, guys, I probably wouldn't play Find the Path. There's better stuff you could be doing with 3 mana. Inspiring Bard, 4 mana for a 3/3. That's not bad. When it enters the battlefield, you can give a creature +2/+2 or gain 3 life. It's not terrible for a common. I have played it before, and it can be very playable. Depending on what your deck's doing. If you're with white doing the whole if you gain 3 life, make angels things, this is a great card. It's also good for the aggro for the +2/+2. So I would draft 1 or 2 of these depending on what your deck's up to. Because it can be good, although there's probably some better things you can do for 4, but this is pretty sweet for a common. Bull Strength. So 2 mana, target creature gets +2/+2, trample until end of turn, plus you untap it. So this is a great combat trick for green. Although the pluses isn't very high, I honestly would probably play something else or try to use one of the other not combat tricks, but fight spells. But if you've got no choice, this will have to work in a pinch. Alba, 5 mana for a 4/4 trampler that lets you draw a card. It's pretty sweet. I'd play it. You find a cursed idol. So a green and 1, you can destroy an artifact, you can destroy an enchantment, or create a treasure token and venture into the dungeon. This thing is a bomb. It's a disenchant that has an ability to be usable even if the opponent has nothing to use it on. I think this card is great. I would start 2 or 3 of these, especially if I'm doing a venture deck in the a venture into the dungeon deck. This thing is a powerhouse. I think it's great. I like it a lot, and I do draft it. All right, next here we have the Druid class. We have a green and 1. Whenever land enters the battlefield, you gain a life. For 3 mana, you can play additional land each of your turns. Um, that one's not so hot. I mean, it can be. I mean, for 3 mana, put an extra land in, yada yada yada. Now, for 5 mana, target land you control becomes a creature with haste and has this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. It's still a land. That makes this card really good. Although the times I've played it, to be honest with you guys, has actually been bad. It hasn't really. I would rather just make a big creature in green for 5 mana than have this sit on the field and wait because then it's targetable by disenchants and so forth. And the other abilities on it don't really do anything. Now, take a step back. If you're doing the white thing with life gain, this can be good because you gain life by land entering the battlefield. But again, that's the only situation. Um, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's good enough to play. That's just me. So take it or leave it. And finally, guys, Lair of the Hydra. Probably one of the best man lands that we have out there. Is basically a fireball with legs. You put a green and X into it, Hydra becomes an XX green Hydra creature. It's still a land, and you just punch him in the face for buttloads. Um, this is a great card. Like I said, maybe one of the best man lands there is for a mana sink. Um, so yeah, obviously, if you're playing green, you're definitely playing this. So with that said, guys, thanks a lot for your time. I really do appreciate it. Next, we'll be covering some of the multicolored artifact stuff and try to gauge what they look like and if they're worth their colors that they're in. So, with all that said, guys, remember, until next time, remember to be kind, and I'll see you guys at the draft tables this weekend.